It is useful to choose a guardian, someone you admire, and think of him or her constantly. Live as if someone noble is always watching you. Alone, you are more likely to do wrong. Seneca, Roman philosopher and poet. One rule: prepare for the worst. The Stoics practiced a technique called premeditatio malorum, that is, thinking bad things ahead of time. They believed that thinking about death, poverty, illness, and other unpleasant things could prepare a person for the worst-case scenario and reduce their suffering. Let's imagine that the chief marketer of a company needs to present a report to the CEO, and he is afraid of failing to meet expectations. If we follow the advice of the Stoics, he should imagine what could go wrong. Colleagues will not give him the necessary figures in time. He will make a mistake in calculations. The presentation will not be saved. The laptop will die during the presentation, or the CEO will ask questions to which the marketer has no answer. When a person visualizes the worst-case scenario, he or she can structure all potential problems. Some of them are beyond his control, in this case, the actions of colleagues or technical failures. But for the rest, he can prepare and think through actions in case of force majeure. If any of the problems do arise, the person will be morally prepared for it and will not panic. 2 rule: be mindful of death. Death is the worst enemy and a strong motivator. The Stoics believed that there is no point in being afraid of death. We do not regret the time that passed before we were born, and we should not regret the time that will begin after life. It is often the case that a person begins to truly live only after receiving a fatal diagnosis. Remembering the inevitability of the end, we will not waste time on meaningless activities, but will fulfill long-held desires, set ambitious goals, and enjoy every minute. 3 rule: refuse to give up the familiar. The Stoics were not against pleasures, but they realized that people quickly become addicted to good things. Therefore, they suggested periodically giving up the usual benefits: starving, going barefoot, abstaining from alcohol. Voluntary deprivation makes us stronger and gets rid of addiction. A person who has learned to live on a modest amount of money is not afraid of the blows of fate because he knows that it is possible to enjoy pleasure at any budget. He feels freer and more confident. In addition, when we lose something for a while, we begin to appreciate it more. Remember the joy of taking a warm bath after 2 weeks without hot water. 4 rule: take an example from the best. A person is strongly influenced by his environment, so a true Stoic makes sure that there are wise and noble people around him. It's not just about friends and acquaintances. No one forbids making Nietzsche or Aristotle your mentor. You need to find a person who inspires you and try to act as he would act. Rule 5. Separate events and thoughts about them. Modern psychotherapy uses the technique of cognitive distancing. In order to objectively assess the situation and take control of emotions, we need to separate our thoughts from what caused them. The Stoics practiced the same thing. They understood that by changing the way we look at an external event, we change its impact on us. There are several techniques to help distance yourself from the situation: decompartmentalization, looking at the world through someone else's eyes, and expanding time and space. 6 rule: expand focus. When a person is afraid, they focus on the problem. Tunnel vision occurs. This prevents one from seeing the big picture of what is happening and from acting appropriately. To get rid of this effect, the Stoics use the technique of view from above. Imagine that you see yourself from a bird's eye view and then distance yourself even more. You will see how small a person is compared to a city, and that our planet is an insignificant point in a huge galaxy. If you mentally distance yourself from the problem, you can see it more clearly and dampen your emotions. Spending time in nature also helps. Watching the mountains or the sea brings us back to the realization that we are only a small part of the world and our problems are not as big as they seem. 7 rule: gratitude. People often think that others have more pleasures and fewer problems than they do. But this is an illusion. Because our brains are programmed to recognize threats, we pay more attention to the difficulties and overlook the good. The Stoics therefore suggest that we consciously direct our attention to what we have and find a reason for gratitude every day. 8 rule: form new habits. If we are used to reacting to events in a certain way, it will not be easy to reprogram the brain. But regular practice will help change behavior. Stoics advise always keeping questions on hand that will bring you back to a mindful state. For example, questions such as, will this problem matter a year from now? 10 years from now? Is it up to me? Is there anything I can do? Is this action consistent with my values and long-term goals? Is it better to exercise discipline now or suffer regret later? What would Seneca do in my situation? 9 rule. Plan in the morning and summarize in the evening. The Stoics did not keep to-do lists in the modern sense, but every morning they set aside time to prepare for the day ahead. They prioritized, thanked fate, and mentally adjusted themselves. For example, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he would encounter unpleasant and selfish people during the day, and instructed himself to remain calm and practice acceptance. The Stoics devoted the evening to analysis and reflection. Had the goals set in the morning been accomplished? Did everything go well? What could be done differently tomorrow? 10 rule. Keep a diary. Even Epictetus advised his students to keep a diary, and now the effectiveness of this practice is confirmed by scientists. Writing helps you formulate your thoughts more clearly, analyze mistakes, and evaluate progress. It can also be used to work with emotions and to record life changes.